I will turn it over in just a second for some questions from the audience, but I just wanted to start off with a question of my own. So for me, I think the cornerstone of this film is obviously the incredible and powerful performance by Sheila. I just wanted to, round of applause. Round of applause. I just wanted to ask how she came to be attached to the project, how that happened.
She was really she was the start of the project. We kind of I've known her from the Stratford days growing up, and so she's someone I'd wanted to work with for the longest time, and this was the first opportunity we kind of had to give her something substantial, and so we kind of wanted to work with her to build a story and a character that could kind of give her an opportunity to showcase her immense talent.
And it was far from automatic. The first draft we sent her, it was hard. It's got to be better.
Yeah.
Okay. Amazing.
And it got better, yeah.
Sheila, did you want to talk at all about?
Well, when these two guys approached me, well, it's a gift for two young filmmakers to come to anybody and say, we would like to write a part for you, and you're going to win all the awards. And I went, okay, knock yourselves out. And the script went through some different sort of machinations when we met a few times, but really this is their baby, and they created the role of Valerie, and we shot this up in Barrie for 3 weeks. They all lived in the house that we were shooting in, and after a few days, I said, I gotta have a hotel. Anyway, it was an incredible experience, one of the best experiences I've ever had. It never felt like we were acting, and to be directed by two very different directors. After a take, Aidan would say, "That was great," and then Grayson would come up to me with a pad of paper and talk for an hour and confuse me. And these two girls. Well, anyway.
Round of applause. Amazing. So we're going to turn it over to questions from you guys. I will say we are doing content capture tonight, so if you don't mind raising your hand if you have a question and then just waiting for a mic to get to you for the audio, that would be great. Does anyone have a question to start us off? Throw your hand up in the air if you do. Yes.
Oh, my mom.
Great. There you go.
I'm Katie's mom, but the question's for Grayson and Aidan.
Oh,
How
just kidding.
do you figure it out when you're directing together? Do you discuss beforehand what you want with the characters, or is it kind of an instinctive thing on set? And do you ever fight?
We take turns saying a word, so like you never know where the sentence is going to go. But no, we mostly just made sure we were on the same page before, and then on set it was more about delegating based on who felt stronger about something at the time, where someone's focus was on the monitor kind of thing, where generally after every take, the chances that if we both had the same note, then it's easy. More often than not, we had different things that were sort of like the central focus. So on our budget and our schedule, it came in handy to be able to divide into two and make sure that we were rolling again as soon as possible.
Yeah, it was making sure that like before the day that we were on the exact same page about everything, because obviously the worst thing that could happen was us having to split off in two different ways and confusing everybody. But mainly it was just nice to have that kind of moment of deliberation after take to kind of collect your thoughts before giving the notes, because I think I found directing my first couple shorts that there's the pressure, I think, of when it's called cut and everybody kind of looks over and is asking what to do next, that you kind of will almost instinctually kind of just want to have something to say, whether or not that's the right thing or not. So to be able to have that kind of moment of everybody kind of gave us at least 30 seconds or a minute or whatever to kind of talk about what we liked and didn't like, and really be able to articulate to each other what the note was first before going out and giving that to whether it's the DP or the actor or whatever, was kind of a nice way of making sure you were confident in what you were saying and that you could at least justify it to one person before you went out and were giving it as a good decision or note.
Rehearsal,
yeah.
You did rehearse?
No, I was saying we rehearsed within ourselves for the note that we were about to give.
Yeah.
Got it. How was it for the
And
actors?
no, they never fought that we saw. Never fought.
But we were sharing the bedroom of our producer's twin sisters. So 2 twin beds.
a small girl.
Single,
Which was
single
also
beds.
the change room and the green room. Not at the same time. But there was a letter above each bed which didn't correspond to our names. But I don't know if there were any nights when we were going to bed in those twin beds where we were like too upset with each other.
Don't go to bed angry.
Yeah, never
Exactly.
went to bed angry. There was enough separation between the singles. For sure. Yeah.
Great. Anyone else with a question? You there? Could we get... We're on the way.
Hey guys, great piece. I have 2 questions. The first one is I'm just curious, the big show of the ending, if it started with that or it was an evolution of the writing and was there from the beginning, or it's something you reached and just seemed like the natural conclusion. That's more so for the writing process. Just how did it get there? But the second question I had is, I noticed you don't really show any of the big actions in the movie. We don't see the car hit. We don't see the gun being pulled. We don't see him shooting the BB gun. I'm just wondering, how did you reach the decision? What was sort of like the motivating idea behind it?
First question, the last shot was in the script that we shot with. There was originally an ending where the dog passes by the car and they stop the car and get out and look at it and makes a big meal out of it. The reason that changed is, I think, speaks to your second question, which was not trying to get every last ounce of drama out of every moment and instead just playing the observer to everything that's going on. And I don't know if you want to speak to the second one.
Yeah, I think just the premise and all of the pieces involved are so heavy and dramatic already that I think we were trying to look for every chance we could to kind of not steer towards that, because the setup and everything that all the characters were going through already was such like a heavy ordeal to not that I think we really felt that the more we could pull away from that we would never be missing it because of the premise, and we know what everybody's going through, so we didn't need to ever kind of lean into it as filmmakers, I think. Yeah.
I think in so many films too, what was unique for us in this project was there were so many unanswered moments in the film that I think you two wanted the viewers to interpret yourselves, which I think is the strength of the film, is what is not said, and for us as actors was incredible to play, and it was a lesson in mask work really, because there were so few words and so few explanations and so few tied bows in it, which is. I thought that was really the strength of it. I remember when we were shooting the scene, Katie and I in the car, and the camera stayed behind us while Katie was talking about, you have to tell Mark. And it was probably the most explanatory the film ever got. And when we finished shooting that with the camera behind us, I said, "So are you coming around for coverage now?" And they said, "No, we're done." And I went, "What? You're not going to get this in that scene?" What? And it was a very wise decision, because the writing at that point was as close as it came to an answer, and you didn't need it.
Do you two want to speak to what it was like having to listen in so many scenes rather than speak?
I mean, pretty easy.
There we go.
No, it was interesting because I feel like I've said this before about this film, but you're always trying to figure out, like, what do you know? What do you not want the other person in the scene to know? And how much can you show on your face? I think with my character, especially, like, I'm carrying this secret. And so I was always trying to play that I knew this secret and I didn't want anyone else to know. So I mean, I feel like you guys were really great directors because I would like be really hammy with my face and you'd be like, no, tone it down. So so it was interesting. Like it was like a lesson in restraint, I guess, which is not my strong suit, but.
Yeah, and I would say, like, my character is weird because she didn't know what was going on, so often I was just observing the scenes, kind of like an audience member, and truly listening and just being like, what the fuck is going on with these people? And, like, why is everyone being so odd? And, like, why are we not feeling worse? Like, there's so much that's unsaid in this film, and especially for my character, that it was totally an exercise in observation and listening and piecing together little tidbits and getting frustrated for Zoe.
Yeah, 2 questions.
Okay.
Hi, Aidan. Yeah, obviously in the climactic scene, it was so close to actually saying something. But were there any versions of the script where it got to that point where, like, Eleanor said, she took control of what happened to her, and it was exposed and communicated to the family, and like why was one chosen over the other, or that discussion of how to leave that out and go about that heavy topic, and then I love the cardinal. Did you know the fact about the cardinal before? I just like knowing how that inspired that.
Do the first question?
Sure, yeah. I think we did shoot kind of an alternate version of the last scene where more was resolved and more was said, but it felt like tying the story up too cleanly, and the story takes place within 2 days, so it felt like the movie then became, here's a portrait of a resolution rather than here is a portrait of an evolving problem. And I think including it just felt like it wasn't in line with the rest of the film, and felt a bit reductive, as in we were saying, like, we made this movie to get this moment, and it was a great performance. It was really tough to cut, and it was there. All the performances were so good in the last scene, and it was there until maybe the last cut. But we screened it for a number of people, and they loved that scene, but we felt like what the movie was saying to people and the way people were leaving after having seen the movie wasn't really sitting in the right place, and felt like it was more serving of the craft of the filmmaking versus the story. So it was a really tough choice, but I guess that's why we ended up, and as a result of cutting that, we cut a lot more from the film, so that's why it ended up at 84 minutes.
Yeah, I think it was also just the strength that came with kind of Katie's character having that moment and Sheila's character having that moment. Felt like it was, I feel like the discussion wrapped around it felt reducted from that because it was all being forced upon by this one person, that it wasn't an organic moment for them to have, that it was just being forced by this one person, which kind of, I think, diffused the strength that would have came with that moment as well. In terms of the Cardinals, that came with kind of a lot of researching and Googling of bird habits. I feel like you did a lot more of that than I did.
I know a lot about birds now. Yeah, it came from being, like, it was a fascinating fact that while we were submitting for the project, it was spring. And there was an article about something in Toronto that is called FLAP, which is, I think, Fatal Light Awareness Program or something, yeah. Which is a team of people that go around and try to get people to put a finish on their windows so that birds don't run into them. And cardinals just happen to be the bird most likely to run into their own reflection, thinking that they're defending the nest, essentially, and obviously not knowing about glass intellectually. We laugh, like, birds have outlasted us and will continue to outlast us. So, like, we can have our laugh now and then they'll laugh later. But it was just a convenient thing where we didn't have a title for the film, and the film was about something totally different when we were applying for funding. And then this fact came about, and a new story sort of developed around it.
It was Cardinal originally, and then there was a very popular new Canadian television show that at first we thought wouldn't be an issue, but then turned into being very much so. So we added an S.
Does anyone? Yes.
I just have a question about the process. Sorry. I have a question about the process. You have these beautiful shots of all these the tubes and everything in the factory. So and you've got a line where Sheila says, "It might snow tomorrow," and you've got a scene where there's snow with the swans. So how much of it is a moving target? How much do you find the beautiful shot, and then you say, okay, we write it into that? How much do you say, oh, geez, we got the shots with the snow, we have to go back and shoot? So how much of the stuff is put together in the process, or how much is written and then you...
The Swan Parade is a spring parade that actually happens in Stratford. That we were planning on it being a spring parade in Stratford, and then the day before it snowed, I think about 1.5 feet, and it went from green grass outside to full snowstorm, and that happened to be on day one of shooting when we were shooting in Stratford. So it was a fun little twist. The swans were pissed. Everybody was confused. But luckily, I think it could have gone much worse, but luckily it ended up working out incredibly well with our shooting schedule based on some severe navigation that kind of helped us work the coming back of winter when we see the accident in the beginning, and then as she gets out, kind of this storm hits. So it ended up working out quite well into our advantage. I think there was only a little reworking that needed to be done in terms of the script to kind of have that all line up. But
it's that line that you mentioned.
Yeah, I think that line was the only one we added of her. I think it might snow tomorrow, which now seems very obvious that it was added to help smooth that problem over. But
nailed it.
Yeah.
No, it's more of a logistical process rather than we love this shot, let's change the story. We didn't have that luxury. It was more, okay, now it's winter, I guess. So we restructured everything so that the past had snow, and then as the past is coming back, so too the snow comes back, which wasn't a part of the script on day one of production, but was very much part of the script on day 15.
Day 2 was a core theme of the film, yeah. Hi, Derek.
I actually just have a quick question. I wanted to ask you, you were mentioning with your character, having this sense that something's going on and you don't know what it is. And it's interesting to see the contrast between Mark and your character, in which you both are very aware that something's happening and you don't know what it is, but you're so kind of at peace with the fact that you'll find out when you'll find out. And it's so different from Mark's reaction to a secret being kept. I'm just wondering if you kind of played against his motivations in that.
Not consciously, but I was aware that we were we were parallel characters, and that we were also in the backstory, we used to be quite good friends. So there was and then this caused a schism in our friendship. So I was very aware of the gap between who used to run parallel to me in my life, and aware that was there, and trying to figure out how to bridge that, and just, yeah. So that was the extent to me being conscious of it. Yeah.
Is there anyone out there that needs a mic? Yes.
Hey, great job, guys. Aidan, we actually met at Telefilm, so I'm just curious to know what the process was like for getting the funding. And did that start last year when we did meet at Telefilm? And is this your first feature film as well?
Yeah, it's our first feature. The process started, it feels like 5 years ago. I think it was probably maybe 4 years ago when we applied through Ryerson to the micro budget program. They suggested a couple weeks before the deadline and brought it to our attention. And so we kind of very quickly had to put something together for that first preliminary stage. And then we had to go in, and there was an interview, Ryerson, to kind of help. We had to be Ryerson's nomination going forward. So we had to go kind of do an in-person interview with a bunch of very professional-looking academic types. And then that was followed up by Telefilm asked us to send in a video of the two of us talking to pitch it, and it's the worst thing to like to pitch a movie that you haven't made yet and try to explain to people why it's already good. And so it was just us like sitting on a couch in similar like silly positions like this with a mug trying to talk like we knew what this movie was going to be already. And then from there it was just trying to figure out how to shoot 15 days on money that didn't seem possible to do that.
I think we have time for one final question. Does anyone want that pressure? Yes, in the back. All the way at the back.
The segue between the penultimate scene and then the final scene, and then the girls are driving away, in terms of where they were and driving away. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
The sequence in between the confrontation and the drive at the end. Yeah. Well, I suppose there's just there's three shots. The first one is the field, which has snow on it, but it's no longer snowing. And I think mostly it was just something to capture, I mean, first and foremost, the time of day, because still people need to know when things are going on. But like, as you know, as filmmakers talking endlessly about craft in our apartment while editing the film, I think that shot was supposed to show the stillness of this area, how, you know, this isn't a film about nosy neighbors and other people beyond those involved in the story infringing on the story. It's very much a suburbia where people are going on with their lives, like no matter what happens with these characters. So I suppose the choice to use that shot was motivated by that. And I think, you know, the shot at the factory of the door going up, that is one of the first things that happens at that piping factory to start the day once everyone has arrived. So it was just the start of another day at this factory where this all happened, and seemingly, you know, life is going on for this factory. And it gave a framing device to have started with coming down and revealing the pipes, and then having the pipes revealed in a different way at the end, which, you know, says hopefully the same thing that seeing the dog says, in that this problem hasn't gone away. It's just sort of been reframed and it has evolved. And I mean, I won't do a deconstruction of the third shot because it's Katie waiting for Grace, and that has more obvious story implications. But I suppose if that would be the explanation behind using those two shots. It's an interesting question. Never been asked that before.
Thank you guys so much for coming out.
This means a whole lot. Thank you very much.
I do want to mention before everyone takes off that Cardinals will be screening here at the TIFF Bell Lightbox this weekend only, before the building shuts down for a little festival we put on every September. So please, if you enjoyed tonight's screening, tell your friends, tell your family, coworkers, neighbors to come out supporting great Canadian filmmaking. Thank you guys.